Blind Justice presents a hero and a city with secrets hidden by the cloak of night. What's Done in the Dark, the audio drama.
The night was alive with the pulse of Ravenhurst, a symphony of sirens and distant shouts. Blind Justice stood on the edge of the rooftop, his sightless eyes staring out at the cityscape. He wasn't blind to the city, he felt it. Every vibration, every whisper of wind through the concrete canyons reached him through a different sense.
Anything, Daniel?
Blind Justice asked, his voice barely a murmur. In his mind, he heard Daniel's reply, clear as a bell.
Nothing yet, Dom. Scans show no unusual energy signatures. No sign of our powered individual.
Dominic, known to the city as Blind Justice, shifted his weight. Disappointment tugged at him. They had been at this for weeks, searching for others like him. Others who could shoulder the burden of protecting Ravenhurst from the shadows that lurked within. He clenched his fist. The city needed more than just him. He could feel it in the way the darkness seemed to be closing in.
We'll keep looking.
Dominic said more to himself than to Daniel.
They're out there, somewhere.
Daniel's voice crackled in his earpiece, a stark contrast to their usual telepathic link.
Dom, I'm picking up some chatter on the police scanner. Sounds like trouble brewing down by the docks.
Blind Justice turned his head towards the source of the distant commotion. The docks, a haven for smugglers, thieves, and worse. And tonight it seemed the breeding ground for something more.
What kind of trouble?
He asked, already moving towards the edge of the rooftop. He could feel the city holding its breath, bracing for the storm.
Possible gang activity, the ABCGI. They've been laying low recently, but it sounds like they're making a move.
The ABCGI. Dominic had heard the whispers, a new breed of criminal, ruthless and organized. They operated in the shadows, leaving a trail of fear and misery in their wake.
Time to remind them why justice is blind.
The Blind Justice muttered, a steely glint in his sightless eyes. He took a running leap, his body a dark blur against the neon-streaked sky, and vanished into the night. The air at the docks was thick with the smell of salt and something less savory, fear. Blind Justice moved like a phantom through the maze of shipping containers, his senses amplified, taking in every sightless detail. He could hear the muffled voices of the ABCGI gang members, their bravado a thin veil over the tension that crackled in the air. They were waiting for something. Someone.
They're heavily armed, Dom. Be careful.
Dominic didn't need the warning. He could sense the cold steel beneath their jackets, the barely contained energy of men itching for a fight. He was walking into a viper's nest, and the vipers were getting restless. He picked up snippets of their conversation. A shipment, drugs, and a name that sent a chill down his spine.
Andre.
Andre, the shadowy figure who had risen to control Ravenhurst's underworld. A man Dominic had yet to meet, but whose presence cast a long shadow over the city. Tonight, it seemed, their paths were about to collide. A flicker of movement in the periphery. Dominic reacted instinctively, his body twisting away from the blow. A metal pipe whistled past his ear, the force of it enough to send a shiver down his spine.
Showtime,
he muttered, a grim smile playing on his lips. The first attacker, a mountain of a man with more muscle than brains, charged. Dominic sidestepped with an agility that belied his blindness, his hand shooting out to connect with the man's chest. The air shimmered, and the man was thrown backward as if struck by an invisible force. More figures emerged from the shadows, their faces obscured by darkness and malice. They swarmed him, a flurry of fists and feet, but Dominic moved like a phantom, his senses guiding him. He fought with the fury of a cornered animal, his telekinesis a shield and a weapon. Crates splintered, metal groaned in protest as he hurled objects with his mind, but there were too many. They were relentless, their attacks fueled by desperation and the cold, calculating orders of someone unseen, someone who knew his weaknesses. Pain lanced through Dominic's shoulder as a knife found its mark. He staggered, the taste of blood filling his mouth. They were wearing him down, these faceless thugs, their numbers an overwhelming tide. He focused, drawing upon the raw power that surged within him. The air crackled with energy, the ground beneath his feet trembling. A wave of force erupted from him, throwing his attackers back like rag dolls. But it was too late. He was surrounded, his strength ebbing away. He could feel the cold steel of a gun barrel pressed against his temple, the whispered threat sending a chill down his spine. Enough, a voice boomed from the shadows. The voice was deep, commanding, sending a shiver down Dominic's spine. Bring him. Rough hands grabbed him, dragging him away from the docks, away from the faint scent of freedom and into the suffocating embrace of the unknown. He had failed, and the city he feared would pay the price. Dominic came to slowly, his head throbbing, his body a symphony of aches and pains. He was bound to a chair, the rough ropes biting into his wrists. He strained against them, but they held him fast. He was in a warehouse, the air thick with dust and the faint scent of mildew. A single bare bulb cast harsh shadows that danced on the walls, mocking his blindness. He could hear the sound of footsteps approaching, slow and deliberate. Someone was coming. Someone who had been expecting him. The voice was close now, and Dominic could sense the presence of the man before him. He was tall, imposing, his presence radiating an aura of power that sent a shiver down Dominic's spine. This was Andre, the man who held Ravenhurst in his grasp, the man he had sworn to bring to justice, and now it seemed the tables had turned. "Welcome, blind justice," a voice said, smooth as silk, sharp as a razor. "I apologize for the less than hospitable welcome, but I find such formalities tedious." The man stepped into the light, and Dominic got his first real look at the face that had become synonymous with fear in Ravenhurst. Andre was surprisingly young, his features sharp and handsome, his eyes glinting with an intelligence that bordered on predatory. He was dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, the picture of wealth and power.
"I've been wanting to meet you, Blind Justice," Andre said, a hint of amusement in his voice. "Your reputation precedes you. They say you're a force to be reckoned with."
Dominic met his gaze, refusing to flinch.